This is the Kia EV6. Looks like a crossover. They'll probably say it's a crossover to sell more of them, but it's not really a crossover. It's sort of a hatchback wagon thing, which I actually like. I think it's a good-looking car. I think it's almost like a hatchback shooting brake a little bit. It looks like Jaguar I-Pace in a way. I think the design's very cool. I saw one on the street. I actually liked it really nicely. I liked it really well in person. I think it looks the design is really nice. Basically, the top level of this is what I want to talk about, and I'm just looking off to the side. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at you guys, but I'm looking at the article. So basically, the top trim of this, it's the Kia EV6 GT. This thing, right here, 576 horsepower, which is pretty
Crossover.
bananas. I mean, it doesn't sound bananas for like an EV, but this is also a Kia. You got to remember, this isn't like a Tesla Model S Plaid or any high performance EV. It's a freaking Kia, man. Like 576 horsepower from Kia. It's impressive, and it also gets drift mode, which I think is fantastic. And if we can start doing this with EVs, yeah, do it. Get me some sound. Get me 576 horsepower and get me drift mode. I'm in. I am sold. I will buy. Like, that's great. Oh, and really interesting point. 0 to 60. What do you think so Chad, and we'll pose the question to chat too as we're saying this. This thing, Kia's most powerful vehicle ever, 576 horsepower. What do you think the 0 to 60 time is for this car? The GT, the 576 horsepower version.
2.1 seconds.
So you went a little bit further than what I was hoping you'd say. No, because now we're in that world of like, oh, EVs can do 2 seconds and whatever. So you say 2.1. I'll already say that that's incorrect. But chat, what do you think? What do you think?
Wait, I think chat needs an important piece of information. Are you driving it or shoving it off a cliff?
Driving it.
Okay.
I don't think shoving it off a cliff is going to really make it go faster.
It would be more satisfying.
For you, I look at that. I mean, that's cool. I dig that. But this is like the next thing, right? There's going to be performance crossovers like this, and just to see an EV kind of do that, I dig it. I think it's cool, honestly. So we got a couple guesses. Christian says 3 flat. Shane says 5.02. Come on, I need more guesses here. We got 21 people on stream. Let's get some more guesses here. 3 seconds flat.
And good news, chat.
5.0.
I will be right back. So roast Greg while I'm gone.
Oh, outstanding. Chad's not here. Let's talk horribly about him. Doug says 3.5. Christian says 6.9. Nice. Nick says 4.5. Jake says 3.5. I mean, is it going to be faster than Chad's Mustang after he dumps a ton of money into it? Yes. Yes, it is. Because it's auto and it's EV and it's got instant everything. And Chad's right foot is not as good as anyone else's right foot with this thing under it. Almost hit it. Doug, you said 3.5 at one point, and Jake also said 3.5. This thing right here, 3.4 seconds, 0 to 60. Now, to put that in perspective, a McLaren P1 does the standing 0 to 60 in, I believe, 3.2 or 3.3. It might be less than that. But those hypercars, that whole like holy trinity, basically does it in like around 3 seconds. I think the LaFerrari was clocked at 2.5 at one point, but either way, most Lambo Huracans are 3.1, 3.2, 3.3. So you could literally take this thing, roll up to a light next to a Huracan, and essentially maybe even beat it off the line, depending on reaction time. That's completely bananas to me. That blows my mind. I can't even like begin to fathom something like that in a Kia. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but leave it in the chat because I really want to hear what you have to say about it. I think that's really cool. And the styling is out. People don't like it. People do like it. I think it looks cool. The interior looks nice. I'm a big fan of the big screen. I like buttons better, but this screen is nicely integrated. I think it looks good. I love the hatchback utility. I like the car design overall. I think it's a nice overall design. This with like a 2-inch drop, maybe even 3-inch drop on lowering springs. Chef's kiss. I think that would look utterly fantastic. So let's go back to the article. I'll give you a couple more points on this thing. This thing actually has 21-inch wheels. You would never know it, but they don't look like 21-inch wheels.
That's how you make it.
They're pretty big.
That's how you make a crossover not look like a crossover. You put big, enormous wheels on it.
Yeah. So here, I was talking about 0 to 60 times. In independent third party testing, Kia says the EV6 GT was able to outdrag a Ferrari Roma and a Lamborghini Huracan Evo Spider rear wheel drive. Not terribly surprising considering how quickly the average electric car can get off the line. I agree, but I was making the point like you could just essentially roll up to a Lambo or a Ferrari or any number of supercars that cost 10, 20 times the amount this thing does and essentially hang with them or beat them. Like, again, that's sort of
Yes.
the EV shtick at this point. But I just find it cool you can do it in a Kia now. Like, of course, you can do it in a Tesla. Of course, you can do it in other EV cars that are, crazy, like the Rimac Navara. Of course, the world's fastest hypercar or whatever it is, EV hypercar. I think it's cool that you can do the Kia. I dig that. I think it's really neat.
So I'll give you all of my thoughts in what will become famous in about 6 months' time. My 35-second review. It's a crossover. It's electric. It's a Kia. Pass. I mean, just back up on that. That's the troll in me, right? But it's just that I hate this notion, and I hate that it's gaining traction that you can make a performance crossover. No, you can't. The CG is too high. I get it's electric, so it keeps the CG lower. I get all of that. It's the body style. It's, hey, I mean, I get it. It's kind of back in the day when station wagons were a thing, they used to put ridiculously big motors in station wagons. Or when you had a big sedan, you put a big motor in that and it became a muscle car. I get all of that, and this is sort of the 2022 version of it. I just I wish they would have said, okay, let's show the concept or something, or show this power off in something a little more exciting. I mean, Kia still makes cars. Why not make Greg's favorite Kia of all time? Why not put this powertrain into a Stinger and then go supercar hunting? That would get me a lot more excited than something like, I don't have, like, I get it. I'm an outlier at my age. I don't have kids. I don't have a family to worry about. So I can buy the most impractical thing I want. The thing is if you're going to brag performance, brag that all of this stuff, make it a performance vehicle. It's a jack of all trades, in my opinion, and it's an electric car, so it masters a straight line, and that's pretty much it. And sure, it can drift.
I'll disagree with you on one point. They do make performance crossovers and they do make them fairly well. Put this thing up against another crossover of considerable or similar price, I should say. And the performance aspects are going to start to shine through, and that's the whole point. You get these cars now that do have good performance for this. Like you can't
I get what you're. I get
can't
what
really
you're
compare
saying.
like this to a Lam Evo other than in a straight line. Everything else is different.
Right, but they are. That's my point. Like,
Sure.
the point is that it's not okay. So compare to a crossover to a crossover. Totally get that.
Right.
But the problem is the car is dying because of it. So
Totally
if you
get it.
put this in a sedan, it would do better, right? It would look at what the Lucid Air is doing, right? Like stupid fast sedan. Yeah, it's similar to a Model S, right? It's not so much that you're comparing it because they're comparable in a sense. You're comparing it because that's what we want, and this is what we're getting. Sort of, you know what I mean? It's like if it'd be like if you wanted Volvo to make a new S or V70R, but it's electric and it's a crossover. It's the same thing. The new C40, taking the nomenclature from the C30 that I have and turning it into a crossover. Like that is my beef
Sure.
with this crossover stuff. It's like, yeah, it's great. It has great performance. It does burnouts. It does drifts. It does all the things we think we want to do and can do in a performance vehicle, but we're not going to do that stuff. So it's not that impressive when you can, and then you're driving down the road and it's, I don't know. I could ramble on for this for a while. I get it. If you want to sell cars in today's day and age, you have to make it a crossover because that's what people are buying. And if you make the hot sedan, so like in many respects, I don't even know what the performance stats are of that Challenger we were just looking at. I would take that over this 10 out of 10 times because it's the way it looks, the way. And I'm weird. I like to know that my performance vehicle, they was eked the best performance, and having something that has one eye on practicality and being performance. It's something I'm going to have to get used to, but I just don't like this idea. Like, hey, look at how clever we can be. Look at how fast we can be. And look, it's a crossover with seats that fold down. No. Again, for you as a family man, I get it. Like, you have 2 kids. You have a wife that inexplicably loves you. Like, I get it.
Here's what I want to say on the matter. What is a crossover other than just a lifted hatchback?
Exactly. That's why I hate them.
It's literally all it is. So in reality, America loves hatchbacks. There's a huge debate in all of the wagon groups that I'm in on Facebook of what's a real wagon with blah, blah, blah. It has to have, it has to be long. It has to have a D-pillar. It has to have this, that, and the other thing. And I'm just like, why don't we just call everything a wagon? Why don't we just call everything a hatchback? Why don't we just take all these crossovers, give them to enthusiasts, we start lowering them, making them horrifically obnoxious so that people stop wanting to buy them, and then they just go buy other things like sedans again. Let's just take every Mazda CX-6 or CX-5, slam it on the ground, put the most bone pipes out the back that you can humanly freaking find, and everyone that starts looking at them is just like, oh, I don't like how that looks anymore. I'm going to go buy this sedan. That's how you get people to stop buying crossovers. You get every enthusiast to buy one, make it horrible, and then everyone's like, oh, this sucks. I'm out. But this is the same thing. But that's what we need to start doing.
I mean,
everyone just does that.
You make a good point, but see, here's the thing. We've reached an age where practicality wins. You said it. Crossovers are lifted hatchbacks. And that is exactly why I hate them. Because they are...
I didn't realize you had such a hatred for hatchbacks.
Crossovers. I love a hot hatch, which is why when you make it tall and dorky, I hate it. It's like if you...
So let's make performance crossovers. For them.
No.
Give them a lot of horsepower. Yeah, why not? That's all it is. All there is hatch. That's all they are is hatchbacks. Just literally bringing it back to hot hatches. That's all you're doing.
No, you're not, because you're bringing it back to base. Here's the history of a crossover in a minute. And I understand that sounds boring. It won't be. I promise. And if it isn't, Greg will give someone $20. Here's the history of the crossover. Back when we were kids, what did every mom drive? Pretty much. They either drove a big-ass body-on-frame SUV, like a Jeep, Grand Cherokee or something like that. Or if they were just looking to not have a vehicle that decimated fuel, had awful fuel economy, all that other sort of stuff, they got a minivan. And then minivans got the shtick of being the lame, boring family car, all that sort of stuff. To the point where, I forget who it was, someone brought in a crossover. It started out to sell minivan, or it started to creep into the minivan, and more and more and more. And I'm pretty sure there was advertising that it's not the minivan. And then it just sort of swooped in and kind of took over for the minivan as that thing that's like, I've given up. I've had a family. I've had kids. I can't afford. I don't want a sedan anymore. I don't want a wagon. Any of that sort of stuff. So, and to the point, so much now to where modifying and making minivans has become sort of that counterculture thing to do, like that Honda Odyssey that everybody sees that has 1,000 horsepower and stuff like that. So like, it's just
the Routacy. Good one. I like that car. That thing's great.
Exactly, and that's my point. So, like, will at some point whatever replaces the crossover make crossovers cool? I don't know. But my point is that, like, it's a hatchback on stilts. And anytime you put something on stilts, it is compromised when you could have had just as much practicality, just as much drivability in a better package that has more performance, lower to the ground, so it's going to be more efficient if you care about those sorts of things. But because idiots like us in the Northeast were like, but it's snows, I need ground clearance. No, you don't. If you plowing through snow in a car, you shouldn't be on the road. I get it, there's times where you should be, but guess what? If your front air dam is acting as a snowplow, probably shouldn't be driving. And that... Any rate, rant over. Christian asks, do you think we'll see a return to wagons and sedans in today's market? I hope so. Probably not, though. Not unless there's some sort of shift. Because like I just said, practicality wins. And the crossover kind of wins that right now. Wagons do it too, but people are so indoctrinated to think that sitting higher up is better. All that. I hope so. I hope Volvo makes a kick-ass retro wagon. that's electric and all this that fits in today's versions. But I can't see it happening. So Doug says, we joked in our Volvo showroom we should start calling our competitors' models wagons so they buy our crossovers instead, which was a great idea, but it did make us cry since we love the wagons. My point exactly. Chop top crossovers, that would look goofy as hell. I think Nissan tried that once, even though it was a Murano, which is already pig ugly to begin with. It made it even piggier and uglier. Jake would rather have a bagged minivan than a crossover. I'm there with you. Doug says, look at the cars from the 1920s. They were all crossovers, more than modern sedans. Then we got lower and lower. Eventually we got too low to be generally useful, so we went back to the minivan and the crossover. It'll be a bit of a cycle. Look at Embla design. Lower stance, same volume as an XC90.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think it's going to be cyclical. To your point, actually, I was going to make, I think Polestar, eventually, I think they could be the ones that make a cool electric wagon in that sense. They've already made an electric hatchback. They've made a sports car in the Polestar 1. They're definitely making a sports car or a supercar EV with that O2 concept, which was confirmed, actually, that they're making 500 of those as the concept stands, which is awesome. We should talk about that in like another stream, which is very cool.